Hello everyone, welcome to the Desolation Sounds Podcast. My name is Stephen Hook and this is a podcast celebrating everything to do within the world of alternative music, be that rock, punk, metal or even extreme metal. Coming up on this week's show, we actually have some news this week. We've got some news from Slipknot and Palm Reader, new music from Pijn and Conjurer's fucking Curse These Metal Hands collaborative thing, with some new album announcements from Babymetal and Mayhem, two bands, so like intrinsically linked, obviously. Album reviews this week come from Borders, Northlane and Thy Art As Murder, and the open mic night is the debut album from Dillinger Escape Plan, Calculating Infinity. Excuse me. But as ever, we will start with the news. And Slipknot, their new album, We Are Not Your Kind, is set to batter, like very, very satisfyingly batter Ed Sheeran off of the UK and US number one slot in the charts. From what I've read, Slipknot currently leading by 13,000 sales. Slipknot have more physical copies and digital downloads, while Mr. Sheeran is doing better with streaming. So, hooray for him. His fans are plastic. This is proper good news, isn't it? Because I think Slipknot are probably the biggest modern metal band. Like, if you want to talk about grand scheme of things, there's always an argument between Metallica and Iron Maiden. It's Metallica. But in terms of like modern metal output, I don't think there's anyone who can hold a candle to Slipknot, I don't think. And to see them chart topping in any era really, let alone today's age, is super good news, and it's really, really cool to see. And yeah, nothing on from here at least. Nothing for We're Not Your Kind yet. It is on my to-do list for next week. So hopefully next week, well, you should next week have a review of We Are Not Your Kind. The other bit of news, slightly smaller. It was just a picture I saw up on Twitter yesterday, day before, sometime this week. Palm Reader, why did I sound? Did I go through puberty saying that? Palm Reader, the UK very, very abrasive melodic hardcore, post-hardcore, just fucking kick you in the dick hardcore. They have posted a picture up on their Twitter. It's basically saying 2020 PR4, which to me says that they are in the studio for album number 4, scheduled for next year. You see how I did like some math there? Fucking great this. It will be the sequel to Braille, which came out in 2018, which was also fucking incredible. I really, really liked Braille. I think it definitely finished top 10. It might have even finished top 5 of my albums of the year that year. So yeah, definitely looking forward to some more music from Palm Reader. A very, very underrated and much missed hardcore act. And I want to say missed. I don't mean like, oh, they've been gone for so long, because they've been gone for a year so far. They just get so overlooked and just so literally missed by a lot of mainstream, even like mainstream alternative music outlets. But with Braille, they got a lot of accolade, a lot of recognition, and a lot of spotlight. So hopefully that will long continue, because they fucking deserve it. They are really, really great. New music. There is a new song from the Curse These Metal Hands project featuring Pijn and Conjurer. The really interesting project that I found out literally about 20 minutes ago came from an arctangent idea. I think the organizer for that said, I want like different artists that like collaborate together. Pijn and Conjurer did this, and they've gone for a whole album EP for it. The song is called Endeavour, and the album's coming out the 16th of August, which is this Friday? It is. How exciting. I purposely, this is where I'm kind of a shit, I purposely have not listened to this yet. I pre-ordered it. It's not on its way because it's not the 16th yet, but I'm waiting to be able to take it all in one fell swoop. And so, yeah, the reviews I've heard for it so far, they've described it as Queen with screaming, which is just fucking great. There's a lot of comparisons to Baroness as well. That last seeing a release from it, which I cannot remember the name of. A lot, even now my limited knowledge of Pine and of Baroness, it was definitely between Pine and Conjurer. That first single had screamed a lot of Baroness to me, and my, again, limited knowledge. So check it out. It's coming. The whole thing's coming out this Friday, anyways, and it's scheduled to be rather darn good. In terms of new albums, we have a couple of albums actually, and like I said at the top of the show, very, very like opposite ends of the scale. We've got black metal icons Mayhem with their new album Daemon. It's coming out, or Daemon. I always think when there's an A in it, 'cause it's Daemon. You need to emphasize the D, but who knows? I'm from the south. What do we know? The album's called Daemon. Maybe. It's coming out the 25th of October. I couldn't see any lead single to go along with it. They've got the track listing and the album artwork out there. The artwork looks insane. It looks really, really nice. So go and check that out. I believe it's back with Attila. I feel like he left for a while, or I might be about 8 years out of the loop. Mayhem, always been that. Every single black metal, or every single heavy metal stereotype that's ever existed about, like, churches, we all believe in Satan, we all wear black, yada yada yada, all have come from Mayhem. So they have accidentally become a huge icon in just heavy metal in general. So praise be. That's coming out tail end of October. And Babymetal also have a new album out. They finally confirmed details. The album's going to be called Metal Galaxy, and that's coming out the 11th of October. And it's going to feature appearances from Alyssa White-Gluz from Arch Enemy, Joaquin Broden from Sabaton, and Tim Henson and Scott Lepage from Polyphia. So a really eclectic mixture of talent in with Babymetal. They've also in with Babymetal. They've also got some Eastern performers on there as well, which I wasn't like too familiar with. I'm liking like the collaborations Babymetal are doing. Like last album, they had a lot of collaborations with Dragon Force, and I thought that really, really like it worked really well for me. The shred, along with like they kind of shred that Sam Topman and Herman Lee do work really well, because it's very high end, very like video gamey kind of thing. To go with the synths from Babymetal worked just super well. So I'm very, very excited to see this. I loved the last Babymetal album. Was Metal Resistance. I just thought it was fucking superb, and I would happily listen to it again and again and again. So yeah, I am very excited. I don't know. I know they've released like 2 or 3 songs over the last year or so. I don't know if they're going to be part of the album as of yet. I only found out about it like 5 minutes ago. And I feel like I've read somewhere that they have replaced, was it Sue Metal that left? I feel like they have replaced it. There's a lot of promo pictures of them as a 3 again, where they were adamant it was just going to be 2, but I don't know. These darn metal bands and their dramas. But yeah, that's coming out the 11th of October, and it's called Metal Galaxy from our fair Babymetal. Right then, on to album reviews, and we're going to start local, which makes them easily the best band ever, because they're from Lincoln. It is the debut album from the band Borders. The album's called Purify, and they play sort of like a gent-inspired rapcore kind of thing. And the rapcore kind of threw me off guard, which I'll talk about more in a second. Borders, I've come to realise I've seen more than I have seen most other artists. That's part and parcel of the fact that I am very new to the live music game. But I saw them support Skindred with Eric Buchanan and the Cult Classics back in November, which I'm pretty certain was the very first episode of Desolation Sounds that I ever did. Because I remember Aaron Buchanan getting in touch and having a quick conversation with him. He's a lovely chap. And then I saw Borders, their album release party with Deliverer and The Human Veil back in May, which was a huge amount of fun. I had worries because all the live shows I'd seen, I've been in the live venue you have across the road, which just trying to think what kind of attendance that would be. Probably about 700 maybe. It's not big. It's probably even smaller than that actually. I haven't got no depth perception or size perception. But I've always seen live music in like a big area, so to speak. Not stadium, but like, I'm fucking it up, but you know exactly what I'm talking about, hopefully. When Borders played their album show, it was the top floor of is it a nightclub, liquor? Top floor of a club, we'll go with. And it was quite a small area, probably cap at about 200-300 at a push. So I was really worried that they were might struggle to get a decent show going. I was fucking wrong. They crammed that tiny little venue full of energy. Vocalist JJ Oliphant said that at the start of his set, or their set, sorry, he said that he was feeling a bit under the weather. He's got problems with his throat, so he might not sound up to par because this was, I think, the last stop on their tour. And they'd played a couple of shows previously. Like, yeah, I'm not really feeling up to it. And then he, along with his bandmates, just tore Liquor apart. Being there, seeing videos of it afterwards, it was just insane. It was a really, really fun show. And the one thing I picked up from both this show and the show they did with Skin Dread, and this is probably going to sound like the most backhanded compliment ever, but I mean it with the utmost sincerity. Their bassist, Tom Britton, is the happiest little man I have ever seen. Like, there'd be times where we'd be watching Borders play, and every time, like the big chugging breakdown bit, you had Gavin, their guitarist, headbang, you had JJ getting really into it, and then to the side you had Tom just sort of swaying back and side, and it was fucking incredible. He's so much fun. We were saying, because he's a short lad, we were basically saying that he was like a shorter emo Jason Momoa, which again, utmost sincerity. I thought he was great, and knowing a couple of people in Deliverer, excuse me, and talking to them, they were nothing but positive about Borders the entire time, because obviously hanging out with them throughout the tour. They were all just lovely, lovely people, and they can also play quite well and stuff. Both live and on record, their overall sound kind of caught me off guard. You go in, I went into it expecting just your bog standard progressive metalcore kind of thing, with a hint of gentleness about it. But then it just sort of switches to like rap verses and like little breaks here and there of JJ getting his rapping in. And that's the point where, in terms of that, like breaking between chugs and riff and like spitting in that rap style in between, very much remind me of TRC. And I feel like I know very little about rap, hip hop, and grime. I'll happily admit to all of it. To me, the execution here is very UK grime like. That's kind of what I'm picking up at least. I really enjoyed, it's a weird thing to say, I really enjoyed the backing vocals from Gavin Burton, the guitarist and backing vocalist. I felt that he complemented and bounced off JJ really, really well. And to describe his vocal style, it's more like a thrash metal snarl, which you've got JJ like doing growls and doing screams and then doing the rapping. So he's a bit more flexible with what he can and can't do. And then you've got Gavin, who's a bit more consistent with that thrash snarl, but I think it just really does, like the power play between them does work super, super well. And the closest example I get is is it Sean from While She Sleeps? He can't do like the same sort of things as Loz, but what he does it so well. I've lost where I am. There we go. The chorus to the song Wake Up, which is the second song on the album, it just sounds mammoth, those two working together. and just exploding the entire way through. Bad Blood, sadly, isn't a Taylor Swift cover. I was very excited for it. It was not. I'm sad, but it's still fun. The song itself, though, it does seem a little bit hero worship towards Parkway Drive, particularly on the chorus. And I spotted it as well in Nothing to Lose, which for modern metalcore bands, having Parkway as the go-to or as the comparison, I don't think is that bad. I think Parkway, apparently based on Parkway after Bloodstock, apparently the Bloodstock performance was off the chart. It was fucking insane from all accounts. So I don't think, me personally, I don't think that comparison is a necessarily negative one, but it's a comparison nonetheless. There's a little occasional burst of speed in there as well. Demon's Reach and Worlds Apart just pick up the pace somewhat fierce, and you know, like when it gets a little bit faster in metalcore, usually when it starts sounding a little bit more punk rock, and that's always what I'm going to go for. And if you want to go for the songs that go extra djenty and extra thick with two C's along that like weird choppy riff kind of sound, Damage Everything and Faded are your go-to for that. And is the lastly one? Yeah, last one. War, which is like track 5. I don't think it was released as a single, but for me, War has the potential, or at least the blueprints, to be their biggest hit, and such a fucking massive song for Borders. It's got a huge chorus. There's a like the when it does the line, "This is an information war." The dirty little riff on that, and like I think it's post-chorus as well. Oh, it just tickles all your buttons, or you know, something that makes more sense. I just thought that song is fucking great. Throughout the album, and it feels very like, what's the word? Very oxymoronic, I guess, to say it. But including War in there, the entire album does have a little bit of an issue of blending the rap and the metal together. Like, it's very stop-starty. I don't think it's blended in very well. At the moment, it feels very much do this, then do this, then do that riff, and then do this, which, you know, it doesn't really, like I said, it doesn't really flow very well. You take TRC, Hacktivist, or even like Straight from the Path, the way they blend the rapping and the metal, in Straight from the Path's case, the rapping and the punk together, it makes up more fluid, more dynamic rapcore kind of sound, and it's a seamless way that they do it. And if Borders want to go for that, which off the top of my head, I can't think of many bands who are blending rapcore with djent. So I think there's like a cool little niche in there that they are going in for. I think they need to be looking at those sort of bands, like TRC, Hacktivist, Straight from the Path, looking at how they write the songs to incorporate the music and the rap and the screams and the like backing growls and just the riffs in general. See how they do it, and just sort of like take inspiration from that. That's my be better feedback, as it will. Overall, for an album that's full of djent and rap, I actually grew to quite like this album. None of those things there are what I usually listen to. Not at all. But I just think they've done it to like a really catchy kind of way. I've made the comparison to TRC a lot. I really like TRC. Again, it's not a thing, like, it's a weird one for me to enjoy, but the way they've done it, it's familiar, but they've got like their own little take on it as well, which, again, I'm still dying. I'm so sorry. They do it very well. I think one of the things as well that I've enjoyed is the fact that they are like in that djent kind of bubble. They focus more on the music. They focus more on being, okay, we've got this djent sound, but at our core, we're still metalcore, and we've got like a little bit of rap in there as well, and whatever. But they've like, this is like, focus on the music. There's no 10-minute section of just guitar pace wankery. They've made sure to make the riffs that they have sound fucking heavy. The choruses sound huge, which is exactly what you want for metalcore. And like I said, they played it out a little bit differently, which I've enjoyed, blending with those raps, those deathy, those gritty kind of vocals for that almost like three-pronged attack for the album. And yeah, just to reiterate, if they blended in the rap and metalcore together a little bit smoother, I think they could be really onto something. Like I said, I don't know much of the market for blending rap with djent, so who knows where to go from now. I really enjoy it. If you can catch them live, because I think they are. I feel like I've seen them say they're going to do live shows again soon. Either way, like keep an eye on them, watch them live. They bring a ton of fun to wherever they play. If you are a fan of TRC, I keep making that comparison. Hacktivist as well, and Parkway Drive. Do give them a listen. They're from Lincoln as well, makes them the best band in the world because Lincoln. They are Borders, and it is their debut album called Purify. 'Tis out now. Everything's out now because I don't get them pre-release, but listen to it anyways. It's fucking great. Obviously, I can't hear me the same way y'all can hear me, but why does it sound like I've had a flu for like 20 years? I feel fine, but my throat sounds fucking despicable. Also, I feel like I'm rushing as well. I'm due to go to work in about half an hour, and I have not left myself enough time to properly think and go over my points well. I'm just rereading my notes really, really quickly and hoping for the best. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Borders, and I'm sorry to our next band that we're going to look at. It is Northlane and their fifth album, Alien. Northlane, of course, the Sydney-based djent, progressive, metalcore, whatever you want to call it. I was going to say Heartthrobs, and I don't know why. We'll stick with that. They could be Heartthrobs. Why not? And the Heartthrobs, their first release without bassist. Oh fuck, Alex Milovich. He's not the one I'm worried about. Having said that, it's reported on a lot of things that their lead single, which was Vultures and not Bloodline, like I thought, Alex Milovich is still present on there because it was released sometime late last year. Either way, for the rest of the album, it was all the bass was done by their new bassist. That's the right sentence, right? Yeah. Brendan Pechacek. And I'm so sorry if I haven't got that right. You deserve more than that. He formerly of the Australian? Sure. Also of the metalcore band Structures. I've just fucking butchered all of that, and I'm so sorry. Maybe next time I might know how to word better. It's probably not true. Northlane have always been a bit of a greatest hits band for me. I really liked Rot and Quantum Flux. I really enjoyed Citizen as well from the previous album. And I kind of enjoyed the Equinox EP that they did with In Heart's Wake. But I've just never really properly got in on them. And I don't think there's anything against Northlane themselves. I always made it my intention to go through Mesmer, because it was a free release anyways. Yeah, I just don't know what it is that's... I think because djent for me, as much as I always wanted to like djent, it just never did it because, kind of what I said in the Borders review, a lot of djent bands just rely too much on, look how many notes I can play in this small window. So as much as I've always wanted to enjoy djent, I've just never really touched it that much. So Alien then is the first album by Northlane I have properly had a look at and probably gone in on. And having said that, I remember when Bloodline came out, and it's the first track from the album that really showcased that they were trying to move in a different direction. I thought Vultures was more par for the course for what I know Northlane to be. Bloodline was a huge difference, and I remember coming out at the time saying it sounds like a poor man's Deftones, which can maybe be considered a little bit mean, and that's fair. This song, though, it kind of... Well, it has definitely grown on me. Initially, I think I didn't like the drone of the I Was Raised in Hell part. That bit is, like... I think that's the slowest part that's grown on me a lot. And the more I listen to it, the more I realise they've done more than just a quota requirements for a standard djent song. You know, they've incorporated more new metal bits in there, a lot of EDM in there. And overall, I just really like Marcus Bridge as vocalist. I know there's a lot of people who, like, overall for Northlane, they were always the band that should have been. And I've heard a couple of podcasts say that as they were just about to maybe break that glass ceiling, the previous vocalist left, Marcus Bridge came in, they had to sort of rebuild, and they're still, for some people, they're still rebuilding. It's difficult to... Well, there's arguments on both sides, because although I think for Over Here, like in Blighty, there was definitely an argument for that. I don't think many people are talking about them as were before. But I've seen reviews for this album, a lot of them based back in Oz, and they fucking adore Northlane, especially Alien as well. The EDM on Alien is what has set this album apart from a lot of djent bands in my eyes, and it's not just electronic core, which, you know, is just a random synth over some plastic post-hardcore riffs, which just sounds like shit. It, again, like with what Borders should be doing, it sounds more like an organic meld. Why was that so difficult? An organic meld of the EDM and the traditional Northlane progressive metalcore kind of shtick. I feel like the EDM crosses more towards like the 90s big beat, like Prodigy kind of sound. Eclipse and Paradigm are the best example of this, as well as 4D. 4D, in fact, I think gets closer to, you know, our metalcore on YouTube. There's just an endless sea of metalcore bands taking pop songs or taking dance songs and saying, this is the screamo version or this is the metalcore version. I almost feel like 4D is the other way around. Some pop artist has got hold of a metalcore song and said, this is the pop version or this is the dance version. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird when you think, when I don't know if anyone else thinks that, but when I see it, when I see that in my head, and every time I listen to 4D now, I just can't shift it. It's odd, and I'm okay with it. And to go back to Eclipse, it kind of reminds me, again, a weird thing to have pop in my head when I'm listening to the album. Eclipse kind of... Why? Eclipse just reminds me of the rave scene from the second Matrix movie. Again, not sure anyone else is picking up on that, but that's just me. I like the underlying industrial sound that's playing in the distance pretty much the entire time. Like way back in the background of the album, it boosts the wall of sound that they've created, and it's not a clean wall of sound anyway. Like I said, it's more industrial than like the big beat or the EDM that we talked about before. It is a very low, almost sounds like either a low static or when a record, like a vinyl record, is finished and it's just at the end, it's just that low rumble in the background. You get me? And as much as I enjoyed that, I also really, really enjoyed, again, weird thing, Brendan's backing vocals again, and similar to Gavin and the Borders, I keep making the comparisons to the Borders now, maybe we should compare them to Northlane. I thought they just supplemented Marcus really well, and I feel like Brendan's got a bit more of like a punk rock kind of, or like a hardcore punk kind of yelp, which just adds to that sound, I guess. It just gives it a bit of a different sound whenever there's multiple people just screaming at me. The album is very enjoyable. I just don't know what to do anymore. I think they've done a great job, and there's a but. I've found myself a lot with this album, and I feel bad because all I keep thinking in my head now is a friend of mine from work adores Northlane. Like, he's already, before it even came out, he was saying this is going to be his album of the year, and, you know, all play to him. I kept taking the piss out of him, and he said it'd be the exact same thing as if Gallows released an album, to which I had to hold back tears and exclaim, yeah, but Gallows are never going to release a new album, are they? I found myself a lot listening to Alien, comparing it to other bands. And when you are one album in, again, like the Northlane album, the Baldur's album, sorry, it's kind of more expected because you're a new band. You want to like try and emulate the bands that you like and things that you like. You have that naivety going into the music industry. When you're 5 albums in, it should be less of that. You can easily say like, oh, this can't. We listened to this and we kind of incorporated this here, and we try to get this idea and do that. But I feel like there are whole songs that sound like rip-off of other bands. It's not just like little bits here and there. There's a whole chunks of this record. Like Freefall reminds me, or it sounds like to me, an Architects tribute act. Paradigm reminds me of early 2000s Linkin Park. Eclipse is probably the best song Crossfaith have done in about 6 years. And like 4D as well sounds a bit, it's got like the whiffles of Crossface as well. Again, 5 albums. If you're a brand new band and you have a song that sounds exactly like another artist, people can say, okay, yeah, I can see what you're trying to do. You need to make it more your own. And even if this, obviously, Northlane's 5th album, if there was a little part that said, oh, like kind of reminds me of Linkin Park, that's different. Because they've took an idea, they've incorporated their sound, but they've still made it their sound in amongst it all. Whereas this, 5 albums in, they've got full songs that sound exactly like previous bands. A part of me thinks that it's to do with the fact that because they've gone so full hog on this electronica for this album, they are finding their own feet as much as it is a fun album and there's a lot of people going absolutely fucking bananas over it. I don't think they've quite got that sound yet. I think they need to. I'll be intrigued to see what happens next. Like, having people who know what they're talking about, like not me, listening to them, getting more comfortable with what they can and can't do with EDM and what they want to do with EDM to make it a bit more their own thing. And blending it into a more original sound. I know I say this a lot, people are like, oh, next album's going to be great. I genuinely am intrigued by next album because I enjoyed Alien despite, and I don't know if I enjoyed it because of the new things they're doing or if it does remind me of all these nostalgia bands that I used to listen to or still listen to ish. Yeah, it's a weird one. It's hard to say, like, I hated it or I loved it because, there's things that irk me about this album and things that like I really enjoyed about it. But again, really interested for how they progress with this new fangled sound. And I'm really hopeful for them because I think Northlane do deserve to have a little bit more behind them because I think they get a raw deal from actual music critiques. And in terms of like Gent as a whole, I think they've done a lot better than most others. So yeah, I think they deserve a lot more, and hopefully they should get it with either. They might even get it with this one. I might be completely off, and I'll have an opinion of one, which is fair enough. But you gotta have your opinions, haven't you? If you've ever gone in on Northlane before, this is a very different way to start. I think overall, if you're a fan of Sixth, I'd say give Northlane a bash. Same with Protest to Hero, except where Protest to Hero do a lot of like high-end like licks and solos. Imagine that replaced by EDM, I guess. And also, I think Between the Buried and Me, especially the last 2 albums, which escaped my brain, and there's a part 1, part 2 over the course of 1 year. They were both fucking great. And I remember them having a bit more ideas in there. So, Sixth, Protest to Hero, and Between the Buried and Me. If you ever gone in on them, but never Northlane, go for one, go for the other. Expand horizons. And yeah, let me know what people think because I think there's too much of everyone else in there, not enough Northlane. But again, it might just be an opinion of one. The album is called Alien. It is their 5th album from the Aussie boys. And yeah, I have nothing else to follow on from apart from the last album. And we are staying in Australia for the last album. And again, it's album number 5, For Thy Art Is Murder, the deathcore titans, as it were. The album is called Human Target and is their first album with their brand new drummer, Jesse Beeler, formerly of Jungle Rot. He is coming in place of their founding drummer who left last year, Lee Stanton. Similar to Northlane, Die Art as Murder has always been a band that I've never been able to quite get. I thought Holy War and Dear Desolation were fun, but overall they're not massively memorable. Again, more of a greatest hits band to me. But I've always wanted to get into Die Art. I've heard so much about them. Everyone's always so high on them. And it is a continuation of the deathcore sound that is good. Because they do the correct thing of prioritizing death metal over the hardcore breakdown, fucking woody diddly bits. And more of that, they prioritize songwriting over playing really, really quickly. You know, it's not a case of, here's one riff, isn't it cool? Here's another, look how fast we can play. Die Art riffs flow so fucking well, one after another. And it's especially apparent on here, and I think I've like singled out a few like individual parts for what I think makes that like blend really well. Overall, I think everyone has such a incredible part to play in making it sound like so fluid. Like Beeler has done a great job on drums, like transitioning from one to the other. Marsh and Delander do really great on guitars. Obviously, Marsh just has some incredible leads in there with Delander teaming up with Butler for those like low end kind of rhythm section, and then you've also got CJ, who's one of the best extreme vocalists and extreme frontmen going at the moment. I just think overall their songwriting capabilities of Die Art is just, it's top tier, man. It's really, really amazing. The album is it's kind of the core concept of what I know Die Art to be: a pissed off, insanely groovy low end barrage of riffs, matched only by CJ's cynicism and criticisms of the world. The slab of riffs that open the album on the title track properly gears you up for everything that's about to come. And the intensity that CJ puts into some of those vocal lines just makes you want to fist the pavement. It's so brutal. The line, something surgical position, where he goes up really low end, almost like mumble growl. Oh, it's good. It's so good. Just scream at my face. Oh, something. Death Squad Anthem is probably my favourite song of the album. It is a fierce bombardment of aggression. And Eye for an Eye is just a rampaging hailstorm of double kick bass and a massive, fucking huge chorus that's got this like quietly like melodic lift playing over the top. And I just, Eye for an Eye, like I initially, because I'm always like expecting, like I know what Die Art are all about, and so I'm expecting like low end gruffing vocals and angry riffs and yada yada. To hear that, where they've got like not quite stadium, no, but like venue size choruses that just explode in. It's like it kind of did like surprise me. It's a good surprise. I don't like surprises, but I like surprises like this. And like from my limited experience of Die Art that I have, I can recognize that this song, Eye for an Eye, and just I feel like the album in general does seem to have a slightly wider appeal than previous efforts. And I think the only way that they're achieving this is getting songs like Eye for an Eye to work. And I think the only way songs like Eye for an Eye work, and that I think by that I mean big sounding songs that still adhere to that deathcore label and a deathcore vibe that Die Art have become so known for. A lot of it is down to the production job of Will Putney. I feel like I've gone on about Will a lot, but he is just insane. He's worked with Die Art before. He's worked with Northlane, Every Time I Die, Knocked Loose, Upon a Burning Body. He is, like, if I see his name attached to any album, I'm so into looking at it and having a listen. I think he's just modern day production is like, he is one of the best modern producers, what I'm trying to say, if words ever fucking worked. And yeah, his work on here, working with Die Art, I think has just been a fucking incredible feat. Overall, Human Target is not breaking any ground. It is everything you would expect, bar maybe the chorus to Eye for an Eye, but everything else is very death metal-y over hardcore, deathcore. Something that Die Out have been doing so well for so many years. And I think that's what makes Die Out such a great band. Is this is a deathcore record. You know exactly what to expect from a deathcore record, but the quality is so high, and you're not faulted at all. It just is great because Die Out is great. You know? If you're a fan of Whitechapel, or Black Dahlia Murder, or Fit for an Autopsy, I think the more party end of deathcore, and somehow you haven't gone in on Die Out is Murder already, definitely go and do it. It'll be worth it, even with a squeaky chair. And yeah, like I said, Die Out's Murder. The album is called Human Target. It's their 5th album, and yeah, I don't think anything more. Fucking why can I not talk today? I feel like it's because I'm in a rush and my own body can smell my fear. From that then, so we got our actual albums out the way. There's only one more to go, and then I might be able to talk like a human and then go to work and then fucking yay! I shouldn't be recording this. I need to go to work in about 2 minutes. It's gonna be fun. The open mic album for this week is Calculating Infinity. It's a debut album from Dillinger Escape Plan, the Morris Plains, New Jersey-based mathcore sensations. They hung up their time signatures. Is it 2 years ago now? Fuck. And left a lasting legacy about how to do the mathcore. And it all started here in 1999. I was 5 years old. How lovely. I'm a big fan of Dillinger, especially One of Us is a Killer and Disassociation. I got into them from One of Us is the Killer, which I think might be, like, I've been told by, I've read and heard from a few podcasts, it's probably the lowest, not lowest, they're one of the bands where they never have a bad album, they just have a slightly weaker one, and that is a slightly weaker one. So to get into them based on what's arguably their worst album, I think that's a pretty good indictment of Dillinger, to be honest. But I feel like Calculating Infinity it's a lot rawer kind of sound than the Dillinger I know. I feel like it's more on par, it's got more in common with grindcore. Latter day Dillinger is produced at such a high standard with more experiments, with effects, and even more electronics that are already on here. They are 100 times more prominent compared to on here, and obviously, as with anything, time just makes them better songwriters because they know what works and what doesn't work. But overall, yeah, probably a bit more closer to grindcore on this because it is just a mad barrage of sound. And trying to imagine the musical landscape of 1999. You know, we're just getting out of grunge. We've got the rise of nu metal, the continuation of pop punk, gearing more towards a very pop punk, thanks to the likes of Blink-182. Mainstream music is going back to the days of boy bands and pop stars. It is a very odd time for music. And then you'll have an album like this, which is technically deranged. It's horrifically beautiful. And it slams. And it's just fucking... It just must have been so fucking weird to have that. Like, even just general alternative music fans going about their day and then hear Calculating Infinity must have just been an entirely different world to them. The opening riffs of Sugar Coated Sour really do wake you up. That high-end jitter into the explosion of Chris Penny's drums and Dmitry Midakaki's shrieks. And from there, you're into 43% Burnt, which is just another level for songs. It's that two-headed attack of high and low-end riffs. And that repeated scream of You're So Beautiful by Dimitri is just fucking chilling. It's serial killer-like. It's fucking great. And the little quirks and little intricacies that I kept finding the more and more listening to this album. It's one of those albums where each time you listen to it, you hear something new. Like, even just like re-listening to do the notes for the review, hearing those little electronic pulses in Sugar Coated Sour, where it just adds to the sound of the album and of the song. I particularly like the steel guitar. I think it was a steel guitar in the running board. It's like and it just goes into this like really more chill, not quite ambient, but ethereal, I guess. Sure, why not? Then yeah, I just like, it's such a cool sound to have in an otherwise like manic and extreme environment. And what I found quite interesting, and I don't know if it's interesting or just me having a but I did hear little previews and little ideas that I think they would expand upon in later Dillinger releases. They were just like tucked away throughout the album. The start of the title track kind of reminded me of Black Bubblegum. The aggression in the last 30 seconds of Jim Fear brings up Limerent Death memories. And I couldn't find it, but there's a few times where I've been walking around and listening to the album and there's something, a song or a part or a chorus or anything that reminds me of Unretrified. I spent 10 minutes last night looking for it, just going over each song and like fast forwarding it, no, fast forwarding it, no, fast forwarding it, no. Constantly, it drove me fucking insane, but I cannot find the song I was thinking of. Guarantee when I listen to it just casually, I'll find it and fucking kill myself, but something in there reminds me of Unretrified. This is like, Calculating Infinity is just musical insanity, and it's baffling how they wrote this. It's like on par with the Converge style of songwriting. Just everything is there for a reason. Everything exists because, like, on purpose. But how do you think of that? How do you think of putting those like little electronic pulses in the back? How do you think of having like the screeching guitar riffs and then a steel guitar just to like cool everything down again? Like, what goes on in their minds, or do we want to know, because it might be terrifying? Overall, I found this a lot. I found it more. Albums like this, you're never going to get it on first try. At least I fucking didn't, and I don't know many people who could. It is difficult, but I found myself liking it more. I found myself liking it quicker than I did Converge or Every Time I Die. I don't know if that's because listening to them, they've kind of like got me used to the more chaotic, cathartic kind of sounding music. But I found Calculating Infinity was more digestible than, what was it, Jane Doe and Low Teens. And I think a lot of it as well is to do with production. The like bee's nest of noise that is Dillinger as a concept. The production just allows you to hear every single note. And I think it was like a joint. Yeah, it's Ben Wyman, who obviously was the guitarist in the band, who has come to be known as someone who knows his shit. Chris Penny, the drummer, and Steve Evans. Like, that three-pronged attack for production have made it sound so fucking good that you can hear everything. Like I said, the more you listen to it, the more you find out what they've put in and what they've taken out and yada yada. If you're a fan of any kind of technical music, I think you should be getting on this. People who know more than I do have been going on about this album for years. It's 20 years old and they still go on about Calculating Infinity. So hopefully you don't need me to tell you that Dillinger Escape Plan were one of the best bands just ever. They're a band that I never saw live, and I don't think I was ever going to see live, because they were just live. They are a completely different animal. An animal is the operative word. But to see them go, and they've gone on their own terms. They've gone happy on their own terms as well. It's bittersweet, but band's got to do what band's got to do. In terms of the lineup for this album, so Dillinger has changed a lot since Calculating Infinity came out. So the lead vocalist for the album, Dimitri Midakakis, he left very amicably in 2001 to focus on his family life and his budding graphics art career, he remained very good friends with members of the band, including his replacement Greg Preciado. Over the years, he even came back and collaborated with the he collaborated with the band a few times. He's provided artwork, and he even guested on a couple of albums and a couple of live shows. After this, he did perform in the short-lived bands Tokyo, as well as Argonauts. Ben Weidman stayed with the band till the very, very end of time. I think he was the only one to do that as well. He performed guitars and bass on the album. Their original bassist, whose name was Adam Dole. He was in a car accident, I believe it was, just before they started recording, and couldn't perform on the album. He eventually came back on a future album, played the keyboards. So it was really good to see him eventually get his name on a Dillinger album. But Ben providing guitar and bass. He, like I said, he stayed with the band to the very, very end. He is currently a member of the supergroup Giraffe? What the fuck is that? Giraffe Tongue Orchestra, with members of Mastodon, the Mars Volta, Alice in Chains, and Deathclock. The other guitarist in the band, Brian Benoit, he came in partway through the album and sort of added an extra little pop to the overall songwriting. He left after Miss Machine, which came out in 2004, after unfortunately developing some nerve damage in his hands. He's done a couple of live appearances here and there, but they've always said that he had a place in the band anyways, which is always nice. It's just Dillinger, just good dudes. And finally, Chris Penny, he would leave in 2007, and he would go on to join Coheed and Cambria, and was there part of them for 4 years. It was a weird legal thing for the first album he was a part of. He was allowed to write the drum parts for the album. I can't remember which album it was, but he wasn't allowed to actually perform it because of, I imagine, some record legalities. So they had Foo Fighters drummer Tyler Hawkins come in and do it instead. So for a Coheed and Cambria album, you had the Foo Fighters drummer playing the parts done by the former Dillinger Escape Plan drummer for Coheed and Cambria, which I feel like it's a pub quiz question somewhere in there. It's hard for me to say for fans of, because, like I said, any kind of technical music that you're fond of, give any iteration of Dillinger a go. If you don't want to go straight into this very raw, very aggressive side of them, you're struggling. I started with One of Us as the Killer, which I've been told, or read, is more probably the weakest out of their entire discography, even though it's still brilliant. Miss Machine, I think, has more experimentation on there, if you would like it to go not only technical but a bit more out there. And yeah, I think that's all I've got to say about Dillinger Escape Plan's debut album, Calculating Infinity. For Open Mic, which I'm thinking might be, I think I will be retiring Open Mic for a while. Biggest part of that is, it's always fun to go back and listen to albums, because if it's like a more underground kind of album, like Cars on Fire or Hawkeyes and that kind of thing, they are albums that I grew up with and I thought were just brilliant, and I didn't hear enough people talking about them at the time or since. If it's more of a major album, such as Calculating Infinity, Low Teens, Jane Doe, etc., they're albums that I never listened to, and this is like my chance to go back and discover albums that are huge in music, and B, just sort of like, initially I thought it was like a really cool idea to look at albums, like major albums, for the first time, if that makes sense. And the one thing I found is every single album I'm always very positive about. There's no real conflict, because I'm looking at albums who are guaranteed, because everyone keeps going on about them, guaranteed to be fucking brilliant. So without that conflict and without that difference, and a lot of the time I feel like I'm just reiterating what everyone else has said for the past 5, 10, 15 years. I am, for now at least, I reckon I'll be dropping Open Mic going forward. I more than happy if anyone got ideas. as a replacement, the social medias are at Desolation Pod. Let me know what you'd like instead, or if you do want to continue with open mic anyways, because it is, again, a lot of the time it's an album that everyone's already familiar with, but it's me experiencing it for the first time. There might be something new in there, or might be interesting to have like a first time listener input, but let me know. I don't really know what people think about any of this. I don't even know if anyone listens. Who knows? Otherwise, I can't think of anything for the meantime, so I reckon it'll just be an extra album, but each time I'm going to try and cater that fourth album review to a slightly smaller band. I was hoping to find bands that had got like less than 1,000 likes or some shit like that on Facebook, but that takes a lot of work to find. So just lower bands I don't feel like a lot of people talk about, trying to get a little bit exposure for them and see how that goes. But otherwise, if you've got any segment ideas or anything you want to see from me, or like if this had a bigger following, I'll definitely say like a listener request, and I'll definitely blast through them. But any ideas you have, come and chat to me. Make sure I'm not talking to myself alone. At Desolation Pod. Fucking hell, I was so close to the end. At Desolation Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the rest of it. But until next time, this has been a very rushed and very fucking shitty episode of Desolation Sounds Podcast. You've had reviews for Borders, Northlane, Die Artist Murder, and Dillinger Escape Plan, as well as some news from the likes of Palm Reader, Slipknot, Pijn and Conjurer, Mayhem and Babymetal, and hopefully, I'm pretty confident you'll see me next week as well, which we'll have. Who have I got next week? Of course. Next week is the Slipknot album. How exciting. There'll also be album review for Volbeat and Jeffrey Palmer, and because I made the decision to get rid of open mic quite late in the week, I don't know who the fourth album is yet. But we'll see. It's an excitement time for everyone. So until next week, might learn how to talk. It's unlikely with 32 episodes in, and I still can't fucking say anything. Bye.